She never meant to become his wife. Not like this. Evelyn remembered the smell of burning rubber and blood in the air that night. The way the metal crumpled around the driver's seat like a coffin. The chaos. The screaming. And Noah, barely breathing, head bleeding, trapped in the wreckage. She hadn't thought. She had just moved. Climbed into that smoking wreck, her hands sliced open by glass, and dragged him out before the car exploded. The news called her a heroine. The doctors said it was a miracle. But Evelyn? She never wanted credit. All she wanted was for him to live. Noah had been kind to her once, in a world that rarely was. Just a passing gesture years ago, a coat over her shoulders in the pouring rain, when she'd had no umbrella. He hadn't even remembered it. But she had. She loved him. Quietly. Hopelessly. From a distance. Always from a distance. Until now. He woke up days later in the hospital, weak and broken. The first thing he saw was her sitting at his bedside, pale and bruised, eyes red from exhaustion. "You saved me," he whispered. She smiled. "Of course I did." Days turned into weeks. His injuries healed slowly. But something else lingered. A sadness. A heaviness behind his gaze. His family adored her. His friends praised her loyalty. Everyone said they were perfect together, fate, even. And when Noah heard that Sierra, the woman he'd loved for years, had gotten married while he lay unconscious in a hospital bed, he shattered. But he didn't rage. He didn't cry. He simply took Evelyn's hand one evening, and said softly, "I owe you more than I can ever repay." 3 months later, they were married. The ceremony was small. Intimate. Almost too quiet. Evelyn wore ivory silk and a hopeful smile, her hands trembling as he slipped the ring onto her finger. He kissed her, gently. Respectfully. But his eyes never lit up. Their home was beautiful, everything she once dreamed of. Sunlit halls, soft rugs under bare feet, his favorite coffee brewed every morning just the way he liked it. Evelyn built their life carefully, as if love could be crafted out of devotion alone. At first, she believed he simply needed time. He was kind. Always kind. He pulled out her chair at dinner. He listened when she spoke. Sometimes, he even smiled at her stories. But when the lights went out and they lay beside each other in the quiet, he felt far, far away. She'd watch his back rise and fall with sleep. His wedding ring glinting faintly in the dark, and she'd whisper things she couldn't say during the day. "I love you," she'd say into the silence, knowing he wouldn't hear. Or worse, knowing that if he did, he wouldn't say it back. There were good days. The kind where he'd bring her tulips because they reminded him of her. Or they'd walk along the lake, and he'd laugh, really laugh, like maybe, just maybe, they were getting there. And Evelyn clung to those moments like a woman adrift, grasping for driftwood in an endless sea. But then, there were the other days. The ones where his eyes lingered too long on old photographs. Or when a certain song came on, and he'd go completely still. As if haunted by something she couldn't reach. She knew who it was. Sierra. The woman he never spoke of. The ghost who hovered quietly between every touch, every kiss, every moment they tried to build. One night, Evelyn finally asked. "Do you miss her?" Noah didn't lie. He never did. He looked at her, gentle, apologetic, and said nothing, but silence is its own kind of truth. She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat, and turned off the lamp. She never asked again. In year 4, Evelyn miscarried. She never told him. He'd been away on business, and she didn't want to make him worry. The doctor said it was early. That it wasn't her fault. That sometimes, things just don't take. But she wept alone in their bathroom, clutching the test like a broken promise. He never knew. She buried that grief the same way she buried her questions, her dreams, and eventually, her hope. Evelyn didn't resent him. How could she? He tried. In every quiet gesture, he tried. But trying wasn't the same as choosing. And some nights, when he reached for her in guilt or loneliness, she let him, and cried herself to sleep facing the wall. Not because he was cruel. But because he was kind. Kind enough to stay. But not enough to truly love her. It happened suddenly. The kind of call that steals the air from your lungs. A rainy night. A highway crash. And Noah's name at the center of it all. When Evelyn arrived at the hospital, the hallways smelled like antiseptic and despair. Nurses spoke in hushed tones. A doctor said something about internal bleeding, and "we're trying our best," but her ears were ringing too loud to hear. All she saw was the man she loved, unmoving, pale, framed by machines and flashing monitors. She rushed to his side. "Noah. I'm here." His eyes fluttered open, barely. Blood at the corners of his mouth. Breath shallow and labored. And then, that ghost of a smile. Evelyn. Her name was broken on his tongue, like he was still deciding whether he deserved to say it. She gripped his hand. "You're going to be okay. Just hang on. Please." But he didn't answer. Not with a promise. Not with hope. Only a truth he should have buried but couldn't carry to the grave. "I'm sorry," he rasped, voice weaker than she'd ever heard it. "I tried. Every day. I tried to love you. But my heart, it was never mine to give." Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. Her hand went cold in his. "I wanted to," he whispered. "You were so good to me. Too good. You deserved someone who could choose you without obligation." His eyes drifted toward the ceiling. Glassy. Far away. "I was grateful. But, never whole." And then he was gone. Just like that. The monitor screamed. The nurses ran. A soft voice begged her to step back. But Evelyn was frozen. Because the man she had built her entire world around had died in her arms, and confessed, with his final breath, that he had never truly been hers. The funeral was grand. 1,000 white roses. Speeches about how loving, strong, and selfless he was. She didn't speak. She couldn't. People offered condolences. They called her lucky. They said, "He loved you so much." She smiled and nodded. But inside, her heart had already died with him. That night, in the silence of their home, now her home, she pulled the drawers open. The one filled with love letters she never gave him. The baby clothes she bought in secret. And a single photograph of them, her smiling brightly, him trying to smile back. She stared at it for a long time. Then lay down on their bed. And never got back up. When they found her the next morning, the doctor said it was a silent heart attack. No pain. No struggle. She just let go. And the world moved on. As if she had never been someone's wife. Someone's silent, invisible love. Darkness. Stillness. A slow inhale, as if breath returned to a body that no longer knew how to live. Then, voices. Muffled at first. Then clear. "She's waking up. Evelyn? Evelyn, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open. A warm light above her, faces leaning over with concern, but not strangers. It was her mother. Looking younger. Tearful. And beside her, a woman from the past. Her aunt, long gone. Alive. Evelyn sat up, panicked. Her heart raced as she took in her surroundings. This wasn't a hospital. It was a bridal suite. A mirror across from her reflected a vision she barely recognized, her younger self. Skin radiant, makeup untouched by grief, hair pinned up in the same delicate bun she wore on her wedding day. Her wedding day. No. No, this wasn't right. That day was years ago. She had lived and lost and died, and yet here she was. Alive. Breathing. Reborn. She stumbled to her feet, knocking over the bouquet on the table. Her chest ached, not from pain, but from overwhelming clarity. This was before. Before the cold dinners. Before the silent nights. Before the miscarriage, the funeral, the confessions whispered over beeping monitors. Before she gave her heart to a man who could never return it. She was back. And this time, she wouldn't make the same mistake. The door creaked open. Her mother stepped in gently. "Sweetheart? Are you all right? The ceremony's about to start." Noah's already waiting. Evelyn's lips parted. That name. His name. Just hearing it sent a shiver down her spine. She remembered everything. His apologies. His final words. The life unlived, unchosen, unloved. She looked down at her wedding dress, white, flawless, beautiful. And suffocating. No. Not this time. "I'm not going through with it," she whispered. Her mother froze. "What?" Evelyn turned to face the mirror. Her reflection was calm now. Steady. "He's not marrying me because he loves me. He's marrying me because I saved him. Because he feels guilty. But I deserve more than that. I deserve to be wanted, not just accepted." Tears welled up in her mother's eyes. "Evelyn, are you sure?" She nodded. "I love him. I always will. But I won't spend another lifetime hoping he'll one day love me back. I won't be someone's second choice. Not again." She left the dress behind. Walked out of the chapel in plain clothes, her shoes in hand, heart pounding like freedom. No one stopped her. Maybe they were too stunned. Maybe fate, just this once, moved aside. As she stepped out into the golden morning light, a strange calm filled her chest. She didn't know what this new life would look like. But she knew one thing, this time, she would choose herself. The city felt different when she wasn't carrying heartbreak like a second skin. Evelyn moved into a small apartment downtown. It wasn't grand like the house she once shared with Noah, but it had sunlight in the mornings and a little balcony where she could sip coffee without hearing silence echo from across the table. She took a job at a publishing house. Entry-level, unglamorous, but something about it made her feel alive. The scent of ink. The rustle of manuscripts. The chaos of editors with too many ideas and not enough time. No one there knew her past. She was just Evelyn. No husband's name trailing behind hers. No sorrow quietly bleeding into every smile. And for the first time, she liked herself. She laughed more now. At herself. At bad coffee. At street musicians who couldn't hold a note but sang like the world was listening. She made friends. Real ones. Women who didn't ask her to shrink. Who didn't measure her worth by how good she was at holding on to a man. They saw her. Not as someone's wife. Not as someone's savior. But as Evelyn, the woman who read too many tragic novels, who danced alone in her kitchen, who cried over dog rescue videos and burned toast like a pro. And she began to realize. Maybe she was never hard to love. Maybe she was just offering herself to someone who couldn't receive it. One evening, she attended a book launch. Her boss had dragged her there, saying she needed to start networking or start packing. The room was filled with people who spoke in clever metaphors and smelled like leather and ambition. And then, she saw him. A man across the room. Broad-shouldered. Soft eyes. The kind of smile that didn't ask for attention but quietly earned it. He was laughing at something. A real laugh. Not the kind that was polite or practiced. Evelyn watched him for a moment, then looked away, reminding herself, she wasn't here to fall. She was here to stand. But fate, as always, had other plans. Because minutes later, he approached her. "You look like someone who doesn't want to be here," he said. She smiled. "I look that obvious? To someone who also hates book launches?" "Absolutely." His name was Graham. A writer. thoughtful, sarcastic. The kind of man who looked you in the eye when he spoke, like nothing else mattered in that moment. They didn't fall into love. There was no crash, no whirlwind. They walked into it, slow, quiet, and steady. The house was quiet now. Too quiet. No laughter. No soft humming from the kitchen. No scent of jasmine she used to wear. Just the distant ticking of a wall clock, like a countdown to a truth he couldn't ignore anymore. Noah sat alone in the dim corner of his study, staring at the photo on his desk, the one he hadn't changed in years. It was of Sierra, smiling. The woman he had always said he loved. The woman he married after Evelyn was gone. But now, that smile looked wrong. Distant. Like a mask he'd been too blinded to see through. His hand trembled slightly as he picked up the book beside it. Evelyn's memoir. The pages were worn, dog-eared from reading and rereading. In her words, he heard her pain. Her loneliness. Her silent strength. And somewhere between those lines, he found something he hadn't expected, his own heartbeat. He remembered a moment, years ago. Evelyn had made him tea when he was sick. Sat by his bedside all night without a word. He never asked her to. Sierra hadn't even come home that day. He remembered another day, the first time he smiled after his brother's funeral. Evelyn had said nothing. Just sat beside him, handed him a book, and whispered, "It's okay not to be okay." Sierra had sent flowers. At the time, he called that love. The grand gestures. The passion. The chaos. But now, it all felt hollow. And Evelyn? She was quiet. Gentle. Consistent. The kind of love that didn't need to shout, because it never left. Noah closed the book, eyes burning. God, what did I do? He thought he had loved Sierra. He married Evelyn out of gratitude, he told himself. But now he knew. He had loved Evelyn. The way she smiled when she didn't want to cry. The way she stood beside him even when he didn't deserve her. The way she loved him, fully, quietly, entirely, with no expectations. And he had discarded her. For someone louder. For someone who let him remain blind. He found her again by accident. At a university conference where she was speaking as a guest author. She stood on the stage, elegant, calm, eyes full of light. Evelyn. Not just surviving, thriving. And beside her sat Graham, his hand on hers, fingers laced like they were never meant to let go. Noah stood at the back of the auditorium. Frozen. His chest ached. Regret carved through his ribs like ice. When she stepped off stage, she saw him. For a second, their eyes met. And she smiled. Kindly. Not with anger. Not with longing. But with peace. Then she turned back to Graham. Laughed at something he said. And walked away. Noah didn't follow. Because he finally understood. The woman he tried to love was the woman he already did. But by the time he realized it, she no longer needed him to. And that was love too. Letting her go. Because he had already lost her the moment he made her feel like second best. The end.